First one. We are in the process of applying for a gap audit for our aquaponic system. We mentioned a certification grant. Is that only for the state of Hawaii, or can we in Colorado apply for this? Okay, apologies, Colorado. Yes, this grant is for farmers in Hawaii to cover their food safety costs, so only for Hawaii growers. Okay, next question. So is a raft system that has proper process procedures in place regarding water only touching the roots need sanitizing of water or not? Who would like to take that question? I'm thinking that's a gap question. That's a Lynn.
Should I unmute? So
yeah, that's a good idea.
That has a proper process procedures in place regarding water only touching roots needs sanitizing of water or not. So if you're saying that you know that there is no contact between the water and the product, then you do not need a sanitizer. Again, you would probably want to have a filter at least.
Okay, so we have another question that says, on the exemption and qualified buyers, is there a list of what is considered a qualified buyer? So yeah, I can take that question in terms of the produce safety rule. Qualified buyers are basically your qualified end user. Is anyone other than a wholesaler or distributor? So if you're selling to a wholesaler or distributor, then you do not meet that qualified exemption. So anybody other than a wholesaler or distributor is a qualified end user. Okay. And then there was another added, those are two questions from this person. It says, Peter, I believe that more than aquaponics would have not been allowed. I'm not sure what that question is. Okay, I'll go on to the next one. It says, Peter, has the health department done anything to let the public know that aquaponics is okay here in Hawaii? I'm still seeing some menus for restaurants stating they do not buy aquaponics. These were added to their menus at the time of the incident in February. Also, is it an accurate statement that more than just aquaponic methods would have had issues based on the old law that was called into question?
Oh, thanks for that question. No, actually, nothing in the old law would have affected any type of other farming. It was just one section in the old law that stated that you could not use any irrigation waters that were from animal waste. And it was that, I guess, for ready-to-eat produce that would be exposed to the animal waste in any type of irrigation water. So that's the only thing it affected. So what we did at the time in February when that question came up, we did do press releases that indicated that the Department of Health did consider aquaponics as no greater risk than any other soil-based farming, and that it was safe to use and that you would treat it just as you would any other normal produce. Yes, I'm sure when we do the rule gets repealed completely, we'll do another press release just to let everybody know that the rule has been officially repealed. From a legal standpoint, once the Department of Health requested the repeal through the governor, at that point we were under no obligation to enforce the law, which is why we took no further steps other than that initial quote-unquote snafu that happened.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. All right. Local iakalo is a traditional and customary practice and an early form of aquaponics. Replicating this system would be in violation, question mark. Specifically, no plants with fish, and fish water can't touch edible portion, kalo, corm, or stem. Great question. So in terms of kalo, it is, it will have a variance from the produce safety rule because it is produce that has to be cooked. So it has a kill step. So there's a variance to kalo that the growers of kalo, they have to put some information on their boxes when they sell it to the wholesaler or distributor, but they're exempt from the produce safety rule and all the other requirements other than this one notice that they have to put on their boxes. So according to the produce safety rule, yes, kalo is allowed in an aquaponic system. But that doesn't mean then that maybe if you are going for a gap audit, that the auditor is not going to ask for some specific requirements according to that audit. So that's a whole different question. Lynn, did you want to jump in on that one as well?
No, I was going to point out the difference between the taro part for FSMA and for good agricultural practices. So I understand about the traditional practice, but one of the things we are looking at is the separation of the fish from, and the fish in the water being separate from the taro itself. So
Okay.
no good, easy answer on that part.
Okay. Okay, so does fish food usually come with any guarantees that they are not microbiologically contaminated? I think is the question. So, RuthEllen, do you have any experience with looking at fish food and what kinds of guarantees fish food producers are providing to growers and to aquaponic operators?
I'm sorry, they're asking specifically about fish feeds?
Yeah. Does it come with any kind of guarantee that they're not microbiologically contaminated? Like, can real producers of fish feed put on a label, this fish food has undergone, proper processing and manufacturing, and we guarantee?
There are USDA guidelines that they have to go through specific certifications where they're processed, and there shouldn't be, when you buy a bag of food, it should not have microbial already there. But that doesn't mean that came from the distributor, the producer, or the feed producer. But how long it stayed in storage at your store before you buy it, who knows? So it's hard to tell how it's important to know where the fish feed is coming from the distributor, how they store it, how you can ask them how long they've had it. There usually are lot numbers on the fish feed as well as expiration dates. So that should give you a good indication on how long they've had it before you bought the product. Does that answer the question?
Okay, we'll wait for that person to respond. But I do know that there is another Food Safety Modernization Act rule. There are 7 altogether, as I mentioned. One is the Produce Safety Rule, and one is the Preventive Control for Animal Feed Rule. I'm not familiar with that rule, but we'll look into that and see if that question, if we can answer that looking at that rule under FSMA. Okay, moving along. What is the acceptable standard for E. coli? 0, or is there some small level that is acceptable? Great question. So I'll take it for the produce safety rule, and Lynn can take it for the gaps. So for the produce safety rule, there's a geometric mean that you cannot exceed 126 colony-forming units, CFUs, of generic E. coli per 100 milliliters. And then there's this statistical threshold value of samples that cannot exceed 410 colony-forming units of generic E. coli per 100 milliliters of water. But as I said before, the water requirements are all being reviewed. So this is just what was proposed, and it's not being implemented right now. So Lynn, what is it for gaps?
So for gaps, we have a similar metric in terms of geometric mean, which is less than 124, depending on the specific audit scheme that you may be looking at. They might have slightly different metrics. So it's rather specific to what system you're looking at, but generally gaps don't include the STV, statistical threshold value. It's only the geometric mean, and they may also allow not only most probable number as well as the actual count, the CFU, colony forming units. So two different measurements of the
mom's here.
Load.
You took her spot.
Okay, and we're gonna add these as references and resources when we send you folks. Okay, next question. Aloha. I'm representing the Institute for Human Services here on Oahu. We have aquaponic hydroponic systems on our rooftop, and we supply green onions to a local ramen restaurant. We certainly fall in the less than 25 or greater than 25,000 bracket. I wonder if they wanted to do less than, but it says greater than 25,000 bracket. So if okay, I'm looking at it, less than, thank you for that. Less than $25,000 bracket. So if understood correctly from Lisa's presentation, are we exempt from adhering to food safety rules and regulations? You are exempt from the produce safety rule, but if you cause a foodborne outbreak, they would probably change that and make you then comply with the produce safety rule. But yes, correct. First of all, because you're making less than 25,000 and you're selling directly to a restaurant. You're not selling to a wholesaler or distributor. So yeah. All right. Next question. Will aquaponic farms in rural areas that have no municipal water services like water catchment be in violation of FSMA guidelines? Not sure if catchment water is categorized as surface water. If so, any ideas as to reducing E. coli concentration for those farms on catchment? Okay, so in terms of the produce safety rule, water requirements, as I mentioned, are still being figured out. But according to what they are currently, you're not in violation by using catchment water on your farm. And then you would have to make sure once those rules are in place that you're following the E. coli, somebody needs to put themselves on mute. Thank you. The E. coli counts need to be below the threshold. So Lynn, do you want to jump in on for gaps in terms of rainwater catchment?
So I think similar to FSMA, if you're looking at catchment, it will probably be considered a surface water. Yep. That's your question?
Yep, it's considered surface water. Okay, so there's a question about
fish feed?
No, if any ideas on reducing E. coli concentration for those farmers on catchment. So that would get back to what RuthEllen was talking about. If you're going to be trying to put things in the water, that then it doesn't affect the fish, that then it doesn't affect the plants. So
right.
That's, yeah.
Correct. So yes, different treatment options, and depending on how you're set up and cost factors as well as maintenance cost factors to decide which method or system might make the best sense for you.
Okay. RuthEllen, did you want to jump in on that?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you have to have before it goes into your fish tank, which Lynn was alluding to, was the being able to treat that water, because you don't know what's in that rain catchment. Knowing no chemistries as well, and knowing if you do have E. coli or other bacteria that affect the plants, that affect the fish, that's all in question. You should probably have some sort of chlorination, UV sterilization, or some sort of filtration before you put it into your system. That's all.
Okay. Moving right along, question about fish feed. Doesn't higher protein mean higher nitrate levels? If so, is it a logical thought process that less fish with higher protein diet may make some amount of nitrates as more fish on lower protein diet? Curious, as I do not sell fish but use a high protein feed. I do this under the assumption that I can maintain less fish density to get same bang for the buck. Sounds like a RuthEllen question.
In theory, yes, you have a high protein diet, you would maybe get more nitrates, or at least nitrates faster, perhaps, because what that protein, it goes right to ammonia, which goes to a nitrite, which goes to nitrates. And so, yes, you have your plants will grow much faster. That's if your nitrogen cycle is working properly. Now, on the flip side of that, when you add a high protein diet to your fish, they're going to grow like the dickens. So if you want them fast growing, and then you might have to deal with density problems, maybe you don't want to go to a higher protein level. It really depends on how much you want to spend for the amount of nitrates. You probably can get the same amount of nitrates maybe on a less protein diet. It's really kind of how much you want to spend. If it's really not that much, you might be talking about 42% protein versus 35% protein per se. I really don't know how much protein you're talking about. But yes, in theory, it should produce more nitrates if you are cycling, your nitrogen cycle is working properly.
Okay, great. All right, a couple more questions. What is the effective UV level, milliwatt seconds, and wow, they put in /CM2 for fish safety and for E. coli killing? Ooh, I am not good with the UV info. I've not delved into that. Do any of my colleagues know about the UV levels?
I think that's a Kai question.
Kai.
Because offhand, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. And again, it really depends on how fast your flow is, your water flow, and how much contact time you have. And of course, the higher UV level you have, the faster, in theory, the faster the flow rate can be to a certain extent. But for specific E. coli killing, I'm not sure.
We might need to get back to people, and we'll try to track down that answer by the time that we have the webinar posted, so that that answer would be included. But I think the other consideration is the turbidity in the water, especially for UV, in terms of the kind of efficacy that you get.
Right. Okay, last question. This is an effective way to provide, reinforce, and explain regulatory requirements. Oh, you're welcome. I noted, though, that the USDA pilot program for 2018 suggests chlorination as a viable sanitation approach for aquaponics water. Yet RuthEllen pointed out that even very low chlorine levels would kill the fish. Is there a way to provide feedback to the regulators? I don't know about this USDA pilot program for 2018.
I don't either. I would hope that if they had suggest chlorination as the viable sanitation, they also put a caveat in there after that that says, don't put chlorinated water into your aquaponics. But I'll have to look at that as well, and have to get back to that, to Roy here. Thanks for good question, Roy.
Yeah, excellent. Are there any other burning questions out there? We're at 5:19, and so we have a little bit more time for questions and answers. Anybody else? I hear crickets, or in my case, I hear coqui. Well, without any further ado, then I think this is going to wrap up our webinar, and I want to, wait, sorry guys, I have someone, okay, everyone's writing. They're saying thank you. Thank you all. I want to thank everyone for taking time. I know it's a Friday, it's Pauhana, and really appreciate your attendance, the great questions that you have provided. I also want to thank our presenters, RuthEllen, Kai Fox, Peter Oshiro, Lynn Nakamura-Tengan. Thank you for your expertise, your knowledge, and sharing of your time this evening. So mahalo, everybody, and you'll be hearing from us soon with links and resources.
Bye-bye, Sam.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I'm the last one. I have a question about Yeah, it's me, Fernando.
Hi, Fernando.
Yeah, I have a question about that because about that for the water, for the aquaponics, about that key one water, you can use that?
What kind of water?
Is it the key one? The one on the one to use for the irrigation something?
Oh, are you talking about recycled water, reclaimed or reclaimed water?
Yes.
Oh, so you're talking about R1 water.
I think that's yeah, because just like good example is the one in the farm in Cunha, and is trying to make aquaponics right there. If I can use that water,
So
the key one water.
water. So I'm not sure how Key1 water affects the fish. Do you folks know, Kai or RuthEllen? Recycled water?
Recycled water? It depends on what was recycled from where.
Well, those in Cunha farm, right below by or that this or the water that they use on the farm right there. I think it is a key one. I think Key1 water.
Key1 water.
Is that the water that's coming out of Schofield? Peter, would you be familiar with what he's talking about?
Okay, one of our participants says surface water.
It's not a surface water. It's a Key1. It's a recycled water coming from Schofield.
Okay, so it is a Schofield water. They do extensive testing, and I know that it's that R1 water is approved for use in crop production. I'm not familiar of what the effects might be in terms of the fish, but it is approved for use in crop production.
So it cannot be used for just like aquaponics or something like that.
So, the question would be what might be in the water that might affect the fish health is what I'm thinking. RuthEllen, would you like to?
Yeah, I would definitely be leery. I would at least have it going through some sort of biofiltration, or maybe even having it tested for, because I don't, there's heavy metals. I'm really unfamiliar with that type of water system as a source, but I would definitely be leery without getting some tests done.
So I think Fernando, it's possible for you to ask the question from the people out of Schofield, I think, that are doing the generating R1 water. I think they do testing. I think I've seen one of the reports in the past. But I think like what RuthEllen is talking about is that they may not be testing for all the things you want to know if you're doing fish production, especially if you're looking at things like antibiotics and other things that may be in the water. I'm not sure exactly what they're testing for, if that includes antibiotics and other kinds of things that you may want to know about in terms of the quality of the water for the fish. So but Fernanda, it is approved for crop production.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn. Excuse me. So
okay.
Fernanda, this water source is only for growing fish, or is it for aquaponics?
Okay, that's why because I'm planning to, if I can do aquaponics on that farm in Cunha. And the only thing I know is only R1 water. That water can be used on aquaponics.
I think one of the challenges to it, if it's the recycled water from a sewage treatment plant, human sewage treatment plant, it may also have steroid hormones those things are typically not efficiently extracted in even tertiary water treatment. So you may have like progesterone, that kind of stuff in the water, which would transfer to the fish and the plants perhaps. So yeah, I would test it.
All right, thank you. That's all I want to know.
Thank you, Fernando. Appreciate your question. Okay, anybody else? Oh wait, sorry, last question. How do I get my workers trained? Are there any teaching modules? Oh yes, there are. And we can definitely share that with you, where to go to find resources, videos on all the different good agricultural practices. You can go to the University of Hawaii's College of Tropical Agriculture's food safety website. Ooh, I should have had that link. I can do that right now. And of course I turned off. Lynn, what is the link to the CTAHR website?
Let me pull up my PowerPoint slide.
Okay.
It's, well, I've got to share.
CTAHR food safety.
If you search for CTAHR farm food safety, you'll pull up the URL. It's manoa.hawaii.
I got it. I got it. Come on. There you go. So yeah, on this link, there's educational materials. There's all the publications that have ever been written, even the ones that you know, Kai and Kai Tamaru and Lynn and myself had worked on, you know, years ago. There's standard operation procedures. There's spreadsheets. There's templates. There's just a wealth of information that, so you don't have to start from scratch when you want to start training your farmers. So great, thank you for asking that question. Okay, I think we're good. So mahalo everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll be doing more of these webinars on different topics, so stay tuned.